Hello and welcome back to another diesel heater video. This is just a quick follow-up to my first diesel heater video. I'd like to thank everybody who watched it, especially those that subscribed to my channel and provided comments and feedback and liked the video. There were a couple of things. One item was a fuel filter that I left out the last time. I did talk about it and explain where to fit it, but at the time I didn't have the rubber hose required to connect it up to the fuel line. So I have since purchased that rubber hose and I'm going to show fitting the fuel filter. Another viewer observed that the heater itself was sitting a little bit low in the exhaust, and the position of the exhaust going out through the shed may allow condensation to build up, so I've fixed that. I've also wrapped the exhaust just to insulate the exhaust from the wood and also to stop any draft coming in through the wall in the shed. So I just thought I'd do a quick update and show those changes, and thanks for watching. I'm just going to fit the fuel filter that I didn't do last time. Didn't have enough of the rubber hose, so just going to reposition that up. So I'm tilting it up the way so that when I disconnect it, the fuel that's in the fuel pump doesn't leak out. As soon as I disconnect this hose here, I'm going to lift it up above the height of the fuel tank, and that way the fuel will not drain out. Then I'll fit in the fuel filter and connect it back up. So I'm just going to get a bit of tape so I can just tape this to the window above the fuel tank height. So just slacken that off. Pull that out and tape up out the way. So we've got a couple of drips there. I'm going to go and get a kitchen towel. So I got some more fuel hose and more fuel hose clamps, and I'll put details and descriptions of these parts. So like before, I've got some more of the fuel hose. I've taped up just about 1.5 centimeters from the end so that I can measure when I'm poking that into the rubber hose. This is a bit tighter than last time. So I'm going to fit it so that the fuel comes in from the top here and then goes through the basket and then comes out the bottom. This top, it looks like it unscrews. I'm not going to try. It'll probably create a leak. So that means I want to put this on the bottom. So this piece of hose is going to go into the fuel pump. And you need to be careful putting this on because I have broken this bit of plastic on a previous fuel filter. So just be cautious when you're tightening that, fitting it over. They're a bit brittle. Right, I'm going to then hook this up to the fuel line that's hanging on the window. I need the rubber piece. So again, fit that on there. Be careful. And then fit this bit into the holes. Just want to tighten up those connections. I don't think these need to be too tight, just hand tight. A tip to reduce the amount of time you need to prime the heater and pump the fuel through is when you bring this down below the height of the fuel tank, the fuel is naturally going to flow through. So we'll see. It's a bit too dark. And there, I think you can see already, the fuel is coming through So if I hold it upright, you can see fuel coming all the way up the pipe. There's some little bubbles of fuel, so I'm going to get all the air out. Don't know if it'll pick up in the camera, but I can see the bubbles of air. And as long as I keep the end below the height of the level of fuel in the fuel tank, it will just keep pouring through. And once we get the last bubbles out, just going to lift it up again. So there, that's a whole fuel line. Oh, you lift it up too much, the air gets back in. So you can see the fuel's come up to this point, and as I go down to put that into the fuel pump connection, some fuel will come through as I lower it down, and I just want to pinch it off just as the fuel starts to come out. And it's just coming up, and just about there. Put that back in. So just a little bit of fuel came out, that's good, there's no air. I'll just tighten this back up. Now, I'm going to put the fuel pump back to its normal angle, sort of 35 degrees. Slightly up that way. And then I just need to tidy up the fuel hose. And I'll just want to keep an eye on this, make sure there's no leaks. But there should be no problems. One viewer noted that the exhaust is lower next to the heater than it is when it goes out the wall there. So I'm just going to raise the heater up a couple of inches just to make sure if there is any condensation build up in that exhaust pipe, it doesn't reside at the bottom there. The next job is to raise the heater, and at the same time I'm going to wrap the heater in exhaust wrap just to block up that little hole. There's a small hole just at the exhaust. I've left an air gap so that the exhaust won't burn the wood, and there's no chance of that burning. Not in my experience. I've had a heater in here for over a year. There's not a mark on the wood. But I'm going to wrap it so there's no draft. So I've slackened off and removed the screws from the bracket on the outside. It's holding the exhaust to the outside of the shed. And then I'm just going to loosen off the heater so that I can move it. I'll bring the heater in a bit, I'll wrap up the exhaust, and then I'll also raise the heater at the same time I'm doing this, and then I'll slide it back into place. This fiberglass exhaust wrap, I would recommend wearing gloves. It's really irritant to the skin. So I'm putting gloves on before I handle this stuff. Like a pair of scissors so I can cut it. I'm just going to wrap this round and round so it is enough to fill the gap, and it'll hold the exhaust in the centre of the hole. I think just got to be careful of this stuff. It's really itchy and irritant. That's going to make a nice bung. And these come with these metal tie wraps. Look it round, slide it through. they only slide one way, so don't make it too small before you put it on. So with the heat exhaust wrap in place, I'm going to now lift the heater up and make sure that the exhaust pipe is on a downward slant out of the shed, so there's nowhere, if there was any kind of condensation inside the exhaust that built up, there's nowhere for it to pool. And I don't know if you can see all the shiny little bits of fiberglass on the gloves, little very fine hairs, horrible stuff. So I've got some bits of wood. Put this side on first. So it's still not high enough. We've got a kink there. There's still a point where water could collect condensation. So I'll put another couple of bits of wood in. So now we can see that as long as I straighten out that slight kink, it's on a downward slope, albeit very slightly, to the outside the shed. So I'm going to put the gloves back on, make sure that exhaust wrap is sitting in the right place. And just final tidy up, cut the end of this off with some snips. And just bend it back. This stuff can be sharper as well when you cut it. So now I've got the fuel filter in line, making sure we're still at a tilt in the fuel pump, and lifted it up so there's no chance of condensation collecting in the exhaust. I've also added a carbon monoxide detector for the shed. All bunged up. One modification that was suggested by another YouTuber called It's All Fab, and I'm going to put a link to his video in the description below, was to use a fuel pickup line. This is a metal pipe that goes in from the top of the fuel tank, and the benefit of fitting one of these is that you will have no risk of fuel leaking out from around the joint where you drill the hole in underneath the bottom of the tank and screw that nozzle in. So I'll put a link into his video. Because I've fitted the fuel tank and I've already put the hole in the tank, I'm not going to go out and buy a new tank. If the seals around that nozzle fail, then I may look at getting a new tank and putting in a fuel pickup line. But I'll put a link below to his channel. It's an interesting video showing you how to fit the fuel pickup line. It also makes it easy to disconnect the fuel tank and to take the fuel tank away with no chance of leaks. So thanks for watching. Hope to see you in the next video.